Welcome back to the Open Mic Broadcast Network, the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. It is time for us to talk some football with Coach Heist Northern. Coach, how you doing today, sir?
Man, everything going pretty good. I'm going to tell you something a little bit, Mike. Man, my brother called me old coach, and old coach sort of feeling a little bit good about himself in a couple things that went over the weekend. So, I told you, I teach hunting classes at the Bass Pro Shop. So I'm unloading my car, getting ready to walk in, and I hear somebody say Coach Northern. So it's one of my former players from Prairie View. He was there when I was a head coach, and he was a walk-on guy. And so I walked over to him. We walking and we hugged. And Mike, the guy with his wife and kids, like you could feel something in somebody, man. He rested his head on my shoulder and said, "Thank you, Coach." And he said, "Coach, you don't know what you did for me, but I just want to say thank you." And he was a guy that walked on, did well on the field, did well in the classroom, and I put him on scholarship. He said, "Coach, that was going to be my last semester in school had you not put me on scholarship when you did." And he said, "Man, I just want to say thank you in front of my wife and kids, because without what you did for me, I might not even have met." Well, he said he wouldn't have met his wife, and he might not, it'd be a whole different situation for him. So, like I said, I feel good about myself from that. And I always tell guys, man, you did what you were supposed to do, and I just helped you keep doing what you was doing in the right direction. Another thing that happened, so after that class, I come to my house, and I don't belong. My wife hates when I go to academy almost every other day, look like. So I stop in the academy in the front of my neighborhood. So I run into a guy, the guy looking at me, and I'm looking at him. He say, "Coach Northern," he turns his head a little bit, like I'm not quite sure, but I think that's him. I say, "Yeah, this Coach Northern." I say, "Where you know me from?" He say, "Well, I know you from being at Prairie View." He say, "I know you probably don't remember me, but," he said, "one game, you let my son run out on the field with your son and another group of boys. It was Porter's kids and some of the other coaches' kids, but I remember Porter's kids. And he said, you let my son run out of the field." And when he said it, I remembered it. I was like, "Hey, man, whatever you do, go right back to that Panther head and find your daddy." And he said, "Coach, when you did that for my son, it lit something in him." And he said, "Coach, my son is a freshman at Prairie View now, and yeah, he probably would have went because of his ties, but," he said, "that just drew him closer to the Prairie View family just because I let him run out there on the field with the Panther football team." So, like I say, I don't want to sound prideful, but, when you get them little stories and nuggets like that, it's bigger than wins and losses to me when I run into people like that, especially my former players when I see them with their wife and kids. Then the next thing I hit them with, "Hey, man, are you giving money back to the school? Because you need to make it better for somebody else that's following your footsteps." So, like I say, I know we're not talking about football, but it's football related. And like I say, I was feeling good about myself, and I know I shouldn't, but I just want to say thank you to those guys that played for me, whether I was the head coach or the coordinator, and just thank you for the not the little people, but the other people that, I might have affected, and then they say thank you for something when they do see me, even though it might be not the wins and losses, but I just want to thank you for inspiring somebody else or doing something that you don't even realize that you did. So I know we on the tangent, but I apologize for that, but it's all about football and loving them kids to me.
Coach, there's no need to apologize, and that's why we do what we do, for how long we've been doing it. And I thought back some years. I've been knowing you for a long time, have I not?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it's all about giving back to a place that changed your life, to help impact kids who look like you and I, and just to pour them back into your community. So that's nothing wrong with that. That's what we're about here. That's why we're called Open Mic, and we serve the community through faith and athletics. And guess what, Coach? For those who don't want to hear it, don't want to be a part of it, they can always flip the dial. So there's no need for you to apologize, sir. Not
Yes,
at
sir.
all.
Thank you, though.
With that being said, Panthers had a big weekend. What a game between Alcorn and Grambling. Jackson State rising to the occasion, man. We had some good football over the weekend.
Hey, man, it was some real good football. Like I say, it's conference play. A lot of the games end up being closer than what people thought some of them were going to be. And like we were talking about, the Prairie View faithful, I don't know if they put a little something extra in the collection plate yesterday, but they got a little help from the football gods in the name of Alcorn State University on Saturday. So they got what they needed. Now it's just a matter, can Prairie View do what they need to do when it's all said and done? And like we've been saying, it might be two losses that get them there. And then, like we always say, it still might come down to the Bayou Classic. And the team that win the Bayou Classic might not be the team that get in the championship. They might spoil it for somebody else. So it's still a lot of football left to be played.
A lot of football to be played. And once you say everyone must take care of their own lane right now. You can't look over to the left. You can't look to the right. And you can't look too far ahead neither. You got to take care of that one that's going to be standing right there in front of you. And when the dust settles, this is why we watch. This is why we participate. This is why we love the sport, right?
Yes, and like you say, you can't cut somebody else's grass and yours real high. They say you can't get the splinter out of somebody else's side. You got a 2x4 stuck in yours. So, and people hate to hear coach speak, but it's all about going 1-0 for the week, and it's the hardest thing. And people don't realize how hard winning football games are, but it's the hardest thing, especially once you get rolling pretty good, to not look past somebody when you know you got, a big game coming up in a week or so, or, you listening to the scores while you playing your game, and then you hear, just say if Prairie View is playing and they hear Alcorn is up on Grambling, they can make Prairie View lose focus on the game that they have at hand, because they worry about, well, if Alcorn win, then we back. Nah, you just keep taking care of your business, and then everything going to work out for you in the long run.
Keep chopping that wood, Coach. Keep chopping that wood.
Yes,
well, when you look at it, Prairie View, to me, this was a very critical game and turning point for them, coming off the loss, playing against a team that had their number the past 2 seasons, and they did what they were supposed to. Started off a little slow, but they got everything cranked up. Only allowed 48 rushing yards for the entire game, 7 sacks. Still a little soft in the defensive backfield area, but they're improving on that. But they, to me, took care of the business that they needed to as they get prepared for this week against Houston Christian.
Yeah, I did get a chance to watch a little bit of the game on Saturday, some of the Prairie View Valley game, and it was pretty much like you said. They didn't just blow the doors off of them, but they made plays when they needed to. Cut down on the penalties, which was a big thing when you playing against somebody that you probably outmatch them physically, so you can't have dumb penalties to keep them in the game, and it wasn't as chippy as it was during the Grambling game. So I think that may have helped as well. So, like I say, Prairie View took care of their business. Everything is still in front of them. The guys played above average games to beat a team that they should have beaten, and you're playing against a team, like I say, that was coming in with, not say overall momentum, but momentum against you, thinking that if we play right, we can win this game. And it's, like I say, the Panthers took care of their business.
Yes, sir. Now, the game that you had pegged as the game of the week, and it turned out to be the game of the week. What a thriller. Alcorn taking care of Grambling by the score of 25-24. What was your assessment of that?
Well, like I say, we thought it was going to be a close game. I actually didn't get a chance to see much of it. I saw some clips of it here and there, but it was a good, 1-point game. You could say a good defensive struggle, even though the teams scored in that 20. I think each team's defense actually scored, if I'm not mistaken. But you know, it was a good SWAC football game that, you know, fortunately for the Panthers, Alcorn came on top, and that helped them. Now, you know, they may need one more piece of help from somebody else with Grantham, but that's only if they take care of their business, because the worst thing that can happen is Prairie View get all the help they need, then don't help themselves when it's all said and done.
Right. And speaking of not helping themselves, the Southern Jags played against FAM, and for the most part, I got to go on record and say Southern's defense played well enough to win, but a couple of special teams collapsed, and the offense seems to be stuck in the mud, Coach, and that's somewhat unusual when you think of the pedigree that Coach Dooley brings to the table. He's considered an offensive, creative genius, but they're still trying to find their way, and it all starts at their quarterback position, huh?
Yes, sir. Like you say, the kid made some pretty good throws, but when it was all said and done, just didn't make enough of them. Southern's defense had a chance, and actually on the drive that Florida A&M scored, I know one of the linebackers dropped the interception that if he catches it, it might end up being a pick six for Southern. And I want to say they had another defensive holding penalty on the third or fourth down that kept the drive going for Florida A&M. And I think they got the ball. Florida A&M got it on the short field position, so that helped them out as well. But the defense definitely played well enough to keep them in the game. And then Musa still struggled with some throws. He made some throws maybe a little bit faster than he had to. He had a couple guys maybe on the swing or wheel route, some running backs out of the backfield that were wide open that he, what we call throwing hot. If his man blitzes, he was trying to throw the ball before the blitzer got to him, and he threw the ball what we call a little bit with too much spice on it. You know, he could have maybe put a little arc on it for the guy to find the ball, and that happened twice to him. So I know some of the Florida A&M fans are still upset they didn't blow the doors off of Southern, but Southern defense did play a good enough game to keep them in it.
Yes, sir. Now, when you got two quarterbacks that come into the game struggling, and one is maintaining enough just to win, if you know you got a game coming up against these guys, in the case of Prairie View, what are you seeing that would be a plan of attack? We know they're going to still do some adjusting and tweaking by the time they meet up, but what are you seeing that could be in favor of Prairie View being able to have success against these two programs?
Getting pressure on Musa. He doesn't handle pressure well, being honest with you. But their screen game is pretty good, so you can't give Coach Simmons a studied diet of the same blitz. You got to mix it up. You got to hit him up the middle. Okay, you got to hit him up the middle. You got to hit him what we call a lightning blitz, a blitz off the left side. You got to hit him with a thunder blitz, a blitz off the right side, maybe a cornerback blitz mixed in there. But you got to mix it up on Coach Simmons. And then sometimes you have to blitz and play zone, because if you keep playing man against them, they're going to run those rub routes, which they did do against Southern, and Southern didn't do a good job of passing them off. But my game plan would be hit Musa early and often, maybe blitz him from his left side because he doesn't throw well when he has to scramble. When I'm saying left, from the defense left, so I'm going to blitz from his throwing hand, from his right side, make him have to run to his left because he doesn't throw the ball. He doesn't do a good job of getting his hips turned going back to his left side. So I'm gonna mix it up, and like I say, I'm gonna try to stop the run on the way to the quarterback, and see if I can see how good their number 2 quarterback is.
Okay, and for the answer for Mr. Flood.
If I was playing against Flood, that's sort of two-way street with Flood, because he has Petrie out there, the big tall wide receiver. I wouldn't want to stay locked up man-to-man on Petrie too much because of his height. And sometimes when you blitz a guy, he may just say, I'm going to take the physical mismatch and throw it high and short to my 6'4", 6'5" receiver. So I would mix up pressure on him, give him some line stunts since he's not the best scrambler in the world, And then sometimes I would drop 8 on him and make him find somebody to throw the ball to because he doesn't do a good job of going through his progressions in my opinion. That's like I say, that's Heights Northern opinion from what I've seen. I've seen him up close. I've been on the field watching the game. I watched it from a TV angle. So that's just my thought process, how I would attack it as attack him as a defensive coordinator. And Southern's not they running the ball decently, but they not running it well enough to say, well, I have to go in there and definitely shut down the running game. It's one of those, we can, if they run it, fine, but if they throwing it, that's even better.
Grambling, they going to be trying to rebound off that, I'm going to say, devastating loss to Alcorn. They'll take on Alabama A&M, who are struggling themselves as they are licking their wounds as well. How are you seeing that matchup?
I like I said, I'll probably get an edge to Grambling, but Alabama A&M played well in the second half. Like I said, I don't know how they went into the game against Jackson. Did they start off trying to throw it and get the quarterback going, or did they try to force the running game and just got off to a slow start? But they did, make a run at them in the second half. But like I said, I would probably still give the edge to Grambling, no matter where that game is played. I don't think, like I say, in a situation where you got two teams that's struggling, to me, the fan base is not going to make a big difference in the game no matter where. So it's just going to be a matter of the guys on the field going out making plays, and, you'll have a little bit of fan and band, but not to where it's going to make a difference, in my opinion, where the game is played.
Okay, well, you just mentioned something here, and it's been a topic around college football, in particular on the FCS ranking. What, if any, is the impact of student-athletes seeing fans in the stand and hearing the cheering of the crowd?
I think it makes a big difference, especially when you're on the defensive side of the ball. Offense, everybody just, they know when a big play comes or when you get a first down, but they don't see the 2-yard stop by the defense as being a big play. So, and then if you're playing in front of a loud crowd and you're on defense, that makes it harder for the offensive side of the ball to communicate, make their audibles. You'll see guys jumping early, getting false start penalties, different things like that. I remember one year we were at Prairie View and we played North Dakota State. And, they one of the best teams in the country, but their stadium is not very big, but it's very loud. And every time one of our guys jumped offside, it's like they gave themselves a round of applause, and they actually counted how many false starts the offense had. But, that can make a difference in the game. Like I talked about playing at Jackson State in front of a packed crowd, playing in the Bayou Classic in front of a packed crowd. The Cotton Bowl, when especially early in the game when people are really in tune to it. But I just think sometimes, Heights Northern opinion, the black college fans leave a lot to be desired when it comes to rooting for their team. It may be only certain schools have a little bit more spirit than others, and then some schools they only cheer when it's offense. It's nothing to get the defense going, in my opinion. But that crowd, the crowd to me is very important, but it's more important to the defensive players than the offensive players, in my opinion.
Now, do you think that is lack of understanding when to cheer as a fan, or just lack of concern as a fan?
I tell you what, the next time you watching the HBCU football game, when they show the crowd, look and see how many people are on their phones. And that'll tell you everything you need to know. And then sometimes it's in important situations in a game, you'll just see people just sitting there, and you might not hear them. Everybody stand up. You can hear the announcer, the PA announcer say, come on, Panther fans, on your feet. And they just sitting there, the same thing as Southern or Grambling or whatever. It's just almost like we have a show it to me attitude instead of let me see how I can get involved. Let me get everybody else around me. Come on, y'all, let's get up. Let's cheer these boys on. Then just sitting there watching the game. So that's, just look at the difference when you watch certain schools play, but especially youth football game?
I'm about to probably get all kind of hate mail in response for what I'm about to say. And it just is what it is. It's sometimes the truth is just ugly, right? And the same thing that make you laugh is the same thing that'll make you cry. Right now, what I was told of recent as far as student enrollment, you have 33 females to every one male that is on the campus of Prairie View. And when you look at that right there is what's cutting into your attendance and fan participation. Because I'm not saying that females are not into sports, in this case football, but not into it like guys are. And there are certain times where they might not feel like it or understand or want to do what's going to need to be done to be that fanatic in fan part. And that could be part of the challenge. And not just at Prairie View, as you mentioned, but in the HBCU. We always knew there were more women attending college, but it seemed like it's more women not only attending, but showing up to the game. And if they show up to the game, they might go to the game just for social purposes. And like you said, they're preoccupied. And we've been doing surveys the last month or so on the campus. A lot of people are oblivious that the game is actually on campus at the time that it is. And it's a missing piece and a frustrating piece if you are a fan and you know the importance of what it is to be there to support your team.
Yes. So one of the things you said too, when you talk about the male to female ratio, then you have to think about it. The guys that come to the game, they might have a little hater rate. They don't really cheer for the guys. They watch and talk about, if that was me, what I would have done. And then you have, like you say, you have that understanding piece. Like I say, my daughter is the daughter of a football coach, and she asked me some questions, and I almost, look at her with that sideways look, but she's not really into football, and, it may be some of the simplest things, but I have to, as a dad, I feel it's my responsibility to teach her some of the ins and outs of football. So, lo and behold, 20 years from now, when she does hopefully have a husband, boyfriend, or whatever, she can sit and be able to have a conversation about what's going on in the game. The other thing is, my wife and I were laughing about the attendance. So when I was playing at Southern, they had a deal where ladies could get in free before like 10 or 10:30. So about halftime of a lot of our football games, you see the stands, the student section sort of empty out, depending on who we were playing. And I can remember going to the club after a game and somebody asking me that was at the game, did y'all win or lose? I'm like, what?
Wow.
So, you have all of that going on. Like, people go and then they'll leave at halftime, which I understand was the case at Prairie View for a long time before they start winning a few football games. But at the end of the day, it's just that culture of not necessarily understanding. We don't have, at some of our schools, we don't have the Friday night quote-unquote pep rally or the yell or, hey, let's get together. All right, when the Panthers had a ball, this is what we going to say. When the Panthers on defense, this is what we going to say. Learning the fight song. That was when I was coaching at Prairie. That was one of the things that we tried to make sure the guys knew the fight song in the alma mater. Some schools, they not into that. It's just you go out there and play, and if you get it, you get it. If not, so what? And we would have like SGA come out and try to teach the kids the fight song and the alma mater during training camp. So, for some people, they don't do anything like that. But it's all a part of getting people to embrace the pride in the school and embrace the pride in the university and the teams as well. For all sports,
yes,
not just football.
Right, well, here's how I feel about it. And I used to get very agitated by it, but as you get older, you kind of calm down somewhat, right? But I feel when it comes to playing, in Prairie View's case, the school song at the end of any competition, that people should be standing attention as if they were standing attention for the national anthem. That's just Mike Prince's opinion. But it'd be too much talking and moving around and where we heading next. And that used to aggravate me to no end. If you understand the blood, sweat, and tears of these historically black institutions to get established and maintain their establishment, and that we're all standing on someone else's shoulder, I think we need to take it just with a little bit more sense of pride. And maybe I'm getting off course now, but that's just the way I feel.
Yeah, and a lot of people do feel like that, because I know during my time at Prairie View, but either me, myself, or Coach Frazier may have gotten an email about the guys on the team moving around, or a particular coach moving around, or not holding his hand up, all that type of stuff when the different songs are being played. So it's to some people it means more to some people than it did others, especially the older alumni. Some of the younger ones may not care as much, but I can guarantee you those people that graduated in the 60s, 70s, and 80s definitely felt a whole lot different than the people that may have graduated in the 90s and the early 2000s when I was there.
No doubt. We were going over the facilities. It was a tour, and I can remember when the stadium had first opened, and you saw the improvements of the baseball stadium complex and everything that's been going on the campus. And it brought a tear of not sadness to my eyes, but of pride, man, knowing from whence we come from. And people don't understand that in the 80s, man, there was almost, where at one point there was no athletics on the campus of Prairie View. It was dead, and I tell this story often, that when they did bring it back, they had a budget. Now, you want to talk about budgets, Coach? They had a budget of $800,000 for the entire athletic department of Prairie View A&M University. And at that time, Texas A&M football budget alone was $2 million.
Yeah.
So you talking about seeing and overcoming stuff, and it cuts sometimes that the people don't seem to be as enthused and excited about an opportunity to cheer your team on in some of the best facilities, not in just the conference, but in the country. And maybe I'm in my feelings on this episode. I don't know, Coach. I don't know.
Nah, like I say, it's a matter of pride and dedication to your school. So I think a lot of people may feel the same way. Even the ones that quote unquote disagree with you, a lot of people may still feel the same way that you feel about, not taking advantage of the opportunity to go and watch a game, or go and watch a game in a stadium that's better than what we had before. So it's like I say, it's almost like people take things for granted a little bit moving forward. Or, once they get past a certain point, it's like we just say, okay, well, we got this now. What, what's next type of thing. So we just have to find a way. Somebody's got to find a way to get those people, and I say those people, but the students, especially the ones from out of town. Hey, we got a game. Whether you have to put, I've been on campuses. Just say I went to Texas A&M one time, and they had a basketball game, and they had signs all over campus. Game at such and such Coliseum night. Went up there another time, volleyball game tonight. When I was coaching at Prairie View, sometimes you would see the volleyball players walking around with shirts that said game tonight, home game tonight, with a pink shirt on or something like that. That lets everybody know, because especially in some of those other sports, people have no idea that they even play on campus. Or where do they play the volleyball game? Where is the baseball stadium? All that type of stuff. But somebody has to do a better job of getting the word out, whether it's through campus announcements, the use of signs, the display board on front of campus. Somewhere it needs to be, hey, we got a game. And you may get a few people that trickle in and come out and see. And it's more than just a baseball player's girlfriends at a baseball game. You got some other students, and they might not know much about the game, but they can get out there and cheer their fellow Panthers on.
Absolutely. Well, and there's an old-fashioned method that still works today, Coach, and that's just simply handing out some flyers. Like they used to do for the big parties, just to go hang out at the MSC, even go to the apartment complexes and just hand out some flyers. But man, we done got all over the place today, but it's all good though. It's all good. Who's going to be your matchup for this week, Coach, and why?
Oh man, I think the best game is going to be the Grambling game. Being honest with you, Southern is playing their homecoming this week. They might as well. I call it Southern Lab. It's the high school on Southern's campus. I'm pretty sure that one's not going to be close. I think Prairie View is going to handle business versus Houston Christian, but I really think the Grambling Alabama A&M game is going to be a good game, because the quarterback play can be up and down for both teams, and I think both teams' defenses are actually not that bad, but the quarterback play is going to be the determining factor in that game. So I just think that that's going to be the best game. If I had to go watch a game, that would be the one that I would go pick to watch.
Right. Well, I'm thinking that Grambling is going to come out with a vengeance this week, and they're going to make life pretty difficult for A&M. And with that being said, Coach, look, we both had our merry-go-round today, but I want to give you some closing thoughts and comments for today, sir.
Hey, we started off talking about guys and their kids. I'm gonna finish up talking a couple stories with kids and coaching and all that kind of stuff. So my very first year of coaching, I worked with Doug Williams at Morehouse. Doug's son, we call him DJ Doug Jr., who's now actually the quarterback coach, assistant coach for the Saints. So DJ was a little boy. We in the office after the first game, and DJ and a couple of other coaches' kids, they throwing the football in the office. So the ball come flying out the office one time. So the second time the ball came out of the office, Doug say, DJ, don't throw that ball no more. So, all right, Daddy, all right. So they come out there and get the ball. So maybe about 3 to 5 minutes later, the ball comes flying out the office again. So Doug screams, he say, DJ, I thought I told you don't throw that ball in the office. He said, Dad, I ain't threw it. I kicked it that time. so we as coaches just like say, Doug, you told him not to throw it, but you ain't tell him not to kick it. So moving forward, my son, so I think from the time that he was 3, he would always ride the bus with us when we played in Dallas. So moving forward, I think he must have been in 3rd grade when we were at Prairie View going to play Dallas in the Cotton Bowl. And they had some standardized testing going on at school on a Friday. So my wife said, well, Adam, you're not going to be able to ride the bus with Daddy. And now, mind you, when Adam was riding the bus, all the boys on the team, they would take him to the bookstore. He'd go eat breakfast in the MSC, come out there with all kind of snacks, sit back there watching movies and stuff. So when my wife told him this might have been like a Tuesday night, he looks at me, and then he looks back at his mom like, Daddy, you better talk to Mama. It's almost like, man, she tripping. I'm getting on that bus. So, but lo and behold, he couldn't ride. But when they did make it there, the guys on the team had a big bag for him with snacks and stuff. So he wasn't too happy he missed that bus ride with the team, but they did have snacks and stuff for him. And then,
man, they made up for it in the snacks.
They made up for it. They was like, hey, they were looking at me like, man, where Adam at, Coach? Like, it ain't the same without him. They at that time he had curly hair and all that, so they take him around like he was their son and introduce him to the girls on campus and all that kind of stuff. Like they were taking care of him. But then the last thing, I was talking to Marquise Johnson. I'm not sure if you remember Marquise, but he played defense.
Yes, sir, I do. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So Marquise is now the strength coach for the Minnesota Vikings. So he was telling people about, we just talked about SWAC, like only in the SWAC would this happen. So my wife was working for GE at the time, and she traveled a good little bit. So sometimes, whenever she was out of town, we met at 6:30 in the morning as a defense, like the defensive players, we get in there, watch film at 6:30. So I bring Adam with me. So we sitting there watching film. I'm going back and forth through the plays, and we're in the bottom of the baby dome in that classroom. So it's only us in there, just me and a couple of the defensive side of the ball. So we hear the door open, and you can hear somebody walking, and you can tell it's a female because you can tell it's like them little flip-flap slippers. Then you hear a baby. So we like, man, who this is early in the morning with a baby in the baby dome? Mike is one of the players, and for lack of a better term, baby mama. She brings the baby. First of all, she didn't believe that we were meeting at 6:30 in the morning. So she brings the baby to the meeting and say, here, you take this baby. I'm not going to say the guy's name, but all the older guys, they know because every time they get around, we always laugh. But she brings the baby to the meeting and said, here, you take this baby. So we always laugh. Here I am. I'm sitting with Adam on my lap, running the remote control, and the football player is sitting there with his baby on his lap in the same meeting. So all the older guys that played for me, they always laugh about that. What about that time such and such? And the thing about it, we was like, this would happen nowhere else. Like, just say at Texas A&M, she wouldn't even have access to the building because you got to have a card, a thumbprint, and all that kind of stuff. So he tells those guys like, man, y'all don't know what I've been through to get here. So, but it's some good. I done been through some stuff to get where I am now.
I know that's right. Well, Coach, you never fail to amaze me and entertain me. And I know those that'll be listening with these stories, man. All I can say, just keep them coming, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Keep them coming, sir. Well, look, we enjoy you each and every time we get a chance to get together. He is Coach Heist Northern, our football analyst here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. Don't forget, you can follow me on X at the Mike Prince Show. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. And until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.